Hi, today I'm sitting here with Pastor Eddie Brewer of Capitol Hill First Assembly in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, and we're just going to be talking about leadership today. How are you doing today, Pastor?
Doing well, thank you. How are
Awesome.
you
So
doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. So I just have a couple of questions for you. And the first one I have is, how did you, get in the ministry, and how did you get to this leadership position here at Capitol Hill?
When I was about 12 years old in my home church, there was an evangelist who came and preached at the church, and it was an off night, like a Thursday night or something like that. I can't tell you what he preached. I don't even know what scripture he used. All I know is when I went home that night, I felt like God had called me into ministry. So from the age of 12, I started thinking in that direction, but I really didn't want to be a pastor, and I didn't want to be a preacher, especially because I was afraid to get up in front of people and talk. So I had other plans with my life. For a while, I wanted to be an Air Force pilot, but my vision wasn't good enough back in those days to qualify. And then I thought about being an architect, but I could not, I never strayed away from God, but I just couldn't see myself in front of a group of people and preaching.
Mm-hmm.
But I could not get away from that calling either. So when I went to college my first year, I came home for the summer, and my pastor at my home church hired me as a summer intern. And I painted Sunday school rooms, I made hospital calls, I did whatever he needed me to do. At the end of the summer, I was planning to go back to school in the fall, in August, and our minister of music and youth left. And he went on the road with a traveling musical group. And the pastor asked me to stay and take his place as minister of music and youth. And I first turned him down because I was just 18 years old. I was almost 19, but 18 years old. And I said, no, I want to go back to school. And I started praying about it, and it seemed like that was the door the Lord was opening for me.
Mm-hmm.
Not the way I had planned, but I said, okay, I'll do it if with one condition, that I can stay in school. And the pastor said, the board voted unanimously to hire you with one condition, that you stay in school. So I did. So I transferred back to a school back close to where I lived in Dallas. And so that's what started my ministry journey. I was young, but I started working with music ministries as well as youth ministries, and then just went from there. And in 1986, I became the senior pastor after 13 years of being an associate. I became the senior pastor of Abundant Life in Grapevine, where I served for 25 years. And then just felt like that's the Lord's timing was ready for us to do something different. So ended up in Grand Rapids, Michigan for 3.5 years as the executive pastor of a large church there, Grand Rapids First. And then the Lord opened the door for us to come to Oklahoma City. And we came down here, and it just felt like a really good fit. And I was ready to get back into a senior pastor role again. And so the people voted us in, and here we are, a little over 2 years later. And we love the people in the church, and it's great to be here.
Man, that's awesome. So sounds like you've been in ministry for a long time. How many years have you been in ministry?
Since 1973.
Oh man, that's
So what is that? 44 years now.
that's a long time in ministry.
Yeah.
But through those years, I'm sure you've learned a lot. So in those 44 years, what have maybe some of the challenges that you've faced as being a leader? Whether it be senior pastor, executive pastor, music, youth pastor. What were some of the challenges that you've come across?
Yeah, those different roles have different challenges, I suppose. But for where I am now in a senior pastor role, and where I've spent most of my ministry, one of the challenges is just staying up with the expectations of people and the expectations I put on myself. And part of that is that I don't want to ever go to the pulpit on Sunday and not be prepared.
Mm-hmm.
So I spend hours and hours in sermon preparation and things like that. And now at Capitol Hill, we have a Sunday night service. So I'm doing a Sunday morning, Sunday night, and Wednesday night. And I haven't had to do 3 sermons a week for many years, because we went to small groups in 1990 in Grapevine. So the big challenge for me is just keeping up with the time demands, because you still have the administrative responsibilities and the financial oversight and overseeing staff members, as well as the sermon preparation. You have funerals and weddings and hospital visits, all the things that come with pastoral ministry. And so I'm about as busy as I've ever been, but I'm enjoying it, and it's been a good transition for us. But other challenges I would say would be, I mentioned expectations. That's one of the big challenges that a lot of pastors face, is the expectations of people in churches can be so unrealistic that it can lead to burnout, which is what I wrote my dissertation on, clergy burnout among Assemblies of God ministers. And unrealistic expectations can drive a person into the ground where they just want to give up and get out of ministry completely. Another one would be criticism. You have to learn to deal with criticism, because if you're going to be a leader, there's going to be criticism. Somebody is going to like it and somebody is not. I've told my congregation on the same Sunday, sometimes somebody will say the building's too cold or the building's too hot. If I get it to please this person, then this person is uncomfortable. So just something as simple as that. I've been told you're too Pentecostal. I've also been told you're not Pentecostal enough. So somebody else said we sing too much. Somebody else said we don't sing enough. So just be prepared that no matter what you do in ministry, you're going to find people who will criticize. And you just have to learn to deal with that. And the one you have to please is God. And you can't please everybody else. Jesus couldn't do it. Paul couldn't do it. What makes me think I can do it? So you got to go back to the foundation of who called me. God called me. Who am I trying to please? I'm trying to please him. And I can't please everybody else at the same time. So those are some of the challenges. There's always financial challenges, because from week to week, you've got to raise funds at a local church to pay all the bills and salaries and everything else. So finances can be stressful. Family relationships can be stressful at times because of the ministry. And you just have to learn to balance all those things out as best you can and persevere.
So with all the churches you've been at, and kind of talking about, planning, you were saying how you have a lot of, you have 2 services on Sunday, 1 on Wednesday. How important is it for you to have, a unified team around you to help you, get through your week?
It's essential, because with a multi-staff, you really have to be on the same sheet of music, and you got to be on the same page when you're trying to carry out the vision that God's given the senior leader. And you need people rowing the boat in the same direction, not in a different direction that's going to cause the boat just to spin around in circles. So you got to be careful in the selection process, but you've got to also give leadership to staff members so that you're always going the same direction at the same time. For me, also, another thing that helps me is I'm very routine oriented, and not everybody's that way. A lot of pastors are last minute Louis, but I have to plan ahead. That's just the way I'm wired. And so I have structure in my week that really helps me. For example, on Monday mornings, we have staff meeting. The reason I do it that way is because everything from the weekend is fresh on our minds. So we can talk about whatever went wrong yesterday, what went right, what do we need to, and it gives us the rest of the week to plan ahead for the following Sunday. And we go over the calendar for usually several months in advance, each staff meeting, just to make sure we're all on the same page, nothing's changed, something's been added, we all need to know about it. So that helps me to have that structure, to spend that amount of time with staff members each week. And I meet with them individually as well throughout the week as needed. But that time together as a staff really helps with what we're trying to accomplish. And then on Tuesdays, I don't come to the office. I stay home all day, because I can get a lot more done on sermon preparation at home, in my home study, without interruptions, than I can coming here, because the phone rings, people drop in, somebody's always knocking on the door, and all that's important. So I do believe in the importance of office hours, but in order to get sermon preparation done, I have to set aside blocks of time that's really uninterrupted. And so I do a lot of that, my sermon preparation on Tuesdays. I try to plan out in advance kind of where I'm headed, but I do the bulk of it on Tuesdays. And then Wednesdays I'm in the office, Thursdays I'm in the office, so I can deal with the administrative things and also catching up with whatever else I need to do with my sermon preparation. And then Fridays I try to take off unless there's something else going on. So for me, having a structured week really helps me instead of waiting till the last minute and saying, oh, what am I going to preach tomorrow? It's Saturday night. I just can't operate that way. I got friends who do, but I can't do that. So the structure really helps me stay organized and stay on track.
And so planning's super important.
It is. It is. In fact, in a few weeks, it's coming up in November, we have an annual calendar planning meeting.
Okay.
And we will plan the entire year of 2018 as a staff. And we'll pencil in the big events and things that we do on a regular basis. Some of those kinds of things will be added along the way or changed, but the majority of those kinds of issues we will cover in that staff planning day, and that helps us plan ahead for the coming year.